Okay, so welcome to the AI Surge podcast, where we explore how AI is shaping industries and accelerating innovation. I'm your host, Surj Uppal, and today I'd like to welcome everyone to Mike Reardon, owner of bEffective Consulting. Welcome, Mike, and looking forward to a great conversation.
Good day, sir. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, great. So, first of all, Mike, for those listening or watching, if please feel free to tell me about your company and who you support and what you do.
Our company, I called it bEffective. I'm inspired by some of the work by Peter Drucker, arguably the father or grandfather of management science. I'm also
What a
inspired
genius.
by a company called LMS because they were a group of individual owners that got together for larger projects. They eventually got bought out by IBM Global Services. But I thought, given the advent of consultants and fractionals being more popular, that model would be nice to put back in place. And that's why instead of calling it Reardon and Associates, it's Be Effective as an all-inclusive name, essentially.
Excellent. So, Mike, you're based in Montreal, yes?
Correct.
Okay. So walk me through your journey. Like, how did you kind of evolve into where you are now and some of your past experiences?
Well, to begin with, I joked that 60 is the new 40. We're all getting older. So I'm embarrassed to say I have 4 decades of marketing and sales experience. Mine is learned from the University of Street Smarts, so to speak.
The School of Hard
And
Knocks,
as a
huh?
result, yeah, so, and I've come to a certain level of contrarian in terms of the viewpoints that are out there for what sales is. So I start with the fact that I began as a sales professional. I even went to the CPSA to get certified back in the day. Not that I thought I needed it, but people would like to see that. And I did a range of work at the beginning, primarily electronic components, office furniture and supplies, as well as hazardous gas detection, which I'll come back to. But in those three roles, I got really lucky. I met some really good salespeople that helped kick off my career. And my contrarian look is that I never really had a degree for what I was selling or the industry experience for what I was selling. And it's safe to say I pretty much achieved the minimum of my quotas over that time, which was 1 million annually for those 4 decades. And
Wow. Good for you.
when people say, well, you do need industry experience or you do need to, no, you need to know how to look at a problem and solve it. So in the case of hazardous gas detection, I talked to the scientists and I said, I'm going out there to represent all your 7 years of development and I don't want to blow up anybody. So what do each gas do? What's each sensor do? And I'm proud to say I brought some significant business to that company at the time. And one day at that particular company, somebody came over and said, "Hey, want to automate your sales?" And what, instead of using my fax machine? And they said, "Yeah, we have this DOS contact management software." And I've been on that ride pretty much ever since, on and off for different companies, contracts, projects, and so on. And that led me to where I'm at as far as my company.
So, Mike, you have on your site, beffective.ca, a focus on strategic partnerships. So is that defined as um, a client agency partnership, or is that a partnership with client yourself and potentially another partner?
Well, I called it collaboration because partnership entails legal, and I don't want to get into that. So I use the construction model to some degree, which is you get the deal, you're the general contractor, I'm the subcontractor, so to speak. And it was
Okay.
inspired by the former president of Invest Ottawa, which I've never met, but I read his one of his final speeches, and he basically said, on the left hand over here, we have a ton of really cool small, medium businesses, not only in Canada, but worldwide. And on this side, we have really notable large corporate companies that have a good presence in Canada. But we have nothing in between. It's essentially a mid-market companies. And so I've been gradually transforming my practice, my business to be able to serve that. Well, one what I learned in corporate, when I was doing the Tech Mahindra project, I asked the executive VP at one of the telecom companies and said, you know, you've got Accenture, you've got Deloitte, IBM Global Services, we're charging you 1,000 a day to, customize, configure it, and when you integrate into Salesforce.com. I'm positive I can put a team together that can do it for a quarter of the price and finish it because it's been going on for a good year. You could probably finish it in a couple of months. Nah, don't know you. Not not basing my VP role reputation on somebody I don't know. I'm right in front of you. He said, listen, I just mean that an individual that nobody knows about is not going to get in and do that kind of work. Whereas the mid-market can't afford the Deloittes and whatnot. And they also can't afford one fractional, one consultant, but they would a group of people that serve them in different roles. And so that's where I'm targeting the business in the future.
So would you say um, you specialize in a certain type of industry or a certain size of company? Is it really that gap you're pertaining to, or what does your typical customer profile or client profile look like?
One of the few industries that still make money at this stage of the game. So professional services overall. And
Okay.
specifically, I've been having fun with the tech, the software development. One, because of my background, and two is I just want to work on my computer or on my engineering project or my electrical business. And can you help me with the marketing and sales of it? Because I don't really want to worry about that. So that's where I'm focusing the money. And I would suggest that the ones that are going to make money going forward are the people in trades.
That's a great point. I think you're bang on there, and a lot of opportunity in that realm for sure. So what would you say in terms of um, some of the things you're really proud of, over the years? I think it sounds like your sales experience, you were able to hit your quotas um, by being creative and effective. Anything else you think is you're proud of in terms of your collaborations or your results or your clients? Any examples there?
Most of the teams was asked to lead, it's about a dozen. Uh, I inherited, so I didn't get to choose was the member on the team. And in each case, we were able to get 2 to 3% increase in sales the following year. And it's about creating a work environment for the team to be successful. So I'm proud of that because I've had calls last year from 3 different sources, 20 years old, saying thank you for, what you brought to the table for me because I'm successful today because of that.
Wow, what a compliment.
So, yeah, I thought so. Apparently I have a lot of testimonials and references on my LinkedIn, and every one of them are legit and a lot of fun to work with each of those individuals. So I'm proud of that. As an individual contributor, starting from zero to get to 1 million is not easy, but I was able to develop a formula because I didn't necessarily have the company or the marketing support that most other people have in larger organizations. And that formula is effectively a little bit of marketing, a little bit of product development or management, a little bit of sales. And what's common to all of them is communicating the value of that message to the level of the listener.
I
And
gotta ask, what's your dog's name?
2 dogs,
True dogs. Okay.
rescued. One is just like a pointer because I don't think he's a lab and he's black. And the other one is white and a Chihuahua that just doesn't like my 25-year-old son when he arrives at home.
Oh, that's funny. Or he wants to get some of your attention. Either way, that's fun.
One or the other, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have that balance. There's nothing like a canine greeting when you've had a tough day. So good on you. So, hey, you touched on those who've reached out years later. You've had an impact, for 20 something years. What do you think is that? What do you give? Where's the credit? Like, where would you assign that credit? Is your ability to coach or to let them grow without too much direction, or just be a sounding board? Like, what's your approach there?
I took a page out of the Olympic athletes. They have a mentor, a coach, a trainer, a consultant or a program director for their overall program. There is a clear delineation between them. A mentor doesn't guide or show you any particular skill. They just ask you questions. So what do you think you should do? That kind of a coach is like baseball. You're showing them how to swing. So it's a specific skill that you want to show them. And in training, especially a team, you want to make sure they're on the same page. And specifically with office politics, listen, we all win if right wing passes to left wing on the hockey, for example. And yes, I know you don't like the left wing. Yes, he pisses you off every time you walk in the building. I get it, but you gotta pass it to him. And if you do that, I'll get him to pass it back to you. And
Mm,
we get a mutual respect. So respect is a key word there. Second, Warren Buffett had it right. You can hire somebody that has all the skills you ever imagined you'd love. But if they don't have integrity, that their word is not their bond. So I evaluate myself on that with the clients as well. I give you integrity. I'm here to serve you, and on the other side, I'm here to serve my company. So let's see what we can do to make it win-win.
that requires a lot of questions and good listening, and not assuming you know the answer. Is that something you pride yourself on?
Yeah, because it's the same thing in sales. I equate sales to people that we should say thank you for your service, which are teachers. And you want to go out there and educate them, which is what is the difference between sales in the 20th century and the 21st century. Right now, in the 21st century, the customer has equal access to the info as much as you. Having said that, right now, 5% of your ideal customers are ready to buy now, and they are 67% along their buying process without you or I as vendors. Oh my God, we got things to fix, ladies and gentlemen. So, how do we cut through that noise? Well, you have to go back to 20th century standards to some degree. What's your integrity? Are you respectful? Stay away from dangerous topics, politics, sex, and uh, any kind of things that you find like that that might be troublesome. Just don't. You just stick to the business at hand. And to your point, sales is my DNA. It's really hard to just keep your two ears and one mouth in proportion. You got to listen to the other side. And in team building, what's missing is coaching today. We do far less than we did before. And that's why we have sales effectiveness numbers so low right now in terms of conversion ratios. So, yeah, those definitely play a part not only in the behind the scenes with the team, but also with the customer.
Mike, I see on your site under services, there's a Grow Pro section. Do you want to talk to that solution a little bit?
Well, it's a collaboration with one of the many lead gen companies that approached me. And I say the comment to each one of them, and this one said, yes, let's do that. And I said, you're just focusing on LinkedIn in their particular case. Is anybody calling or doing the personalization of the direct sales or personal touch before you hand over the lead to the customer? No. Okay, well then I'll do that. I'll set up a system that can do that. And so that's a bit of the source. And then I said, okay, how much does it cost for a typical junior salesperson? Well, depending on which part of the country you're in or continent, I based it on 60 grand. Okay, so 5 grand a month, we'll take care of that. Part of the package will reach out to 2 to 3,000 a month, and we'll make sure the conversion ratios are suitable for you to have high intent, high quality customer, usually 10 to 15 in a given month.
Hmm. I see a quote on your website. You live by the idea of iron fist and a velvet glove. Speak to that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, the other expression like that is, I don't mind being accommodating to you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, or to you, teammate or staff. But if you can't follow some basic value that we've laid out, for example, integrity, and that's when the steel hand comes out. So one of my favorite story is Jason. Jason had the surfer look and everything in an inherited team I had back in 2000. And he refused to wear a tie, which was still a thing back then. And he refused to actually dress up for the customer. Long story short, he was going on his first on the road trip to 10 customers that I had asked him to at least secure one deal out of the 10. He secured a big one, first big one in his whole career, in and around 50 to 60,000. I hear the elevator door open, and there he is. He's at my front door immediately of my office. We had offices back then, not these stupid cubicles. And he's wearing a tie, and he looks at me and says, You're all soft and velvety, but I know if I didn't go down there, properly dress and address these customers, you would just hammer me, right? Well, I'm back. He had a clip-on tie, and I'm done with this tie. So I called the customer thanking for the order, and I asked him, what was the rest of the story? I practically had a heart attack. What'd you do to the guy? I've met him here and there, trade shows and whatnot, but he came in like I didn't recognize him.
Wow.
And then he sat down and he said, I understand you've had these issues for the last couple of months of talking, because they've been talking for a year and he didn't close anything. In less than 30 days, after giving him the framework and whatnot, boom, got his best deal in his career. And he went on to be very successful in the enterprise software space. Last I followed him he was one of the top reps at MuleSoft.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that framework, or is it your secret sauce, or how does that work?
Well, the framework it starts a bit with what you were observing before. I meet them individually. Each salesperson, in my experience, has their own goals of what they want to achieve, their own way of how to do things. I've seen a whole range of really good sales reps that aren't my type, but have done really well. And so I sit down and I craft a plan that works to their strength. So I take the time as a leader to craft that. And then I determine with the team, what is the goal? So if the company strategy was XYZ, how does that break down to what we have to do on a monthly basis, let alone in the number of activities? So that's why my back goes up when somebody says numbers games, because often they don't get what that means. So for example, you got to do 100 calls a day. Darn, I did 8 conversations and no 100 calls a day. Each conversation was about an hour, and they speeded up the sales cycle. But I'll go back and do the other, 90 calls. No, that's exactly the right metric to measure the conversation, not the effing call. Sorry for the language. So those are elements that I put together for them. So not to pick on Jason, but set him up to just get comfortable in talking to C-level executives. They never did that when I was there. So the CEO at 8:00 in the morning, hello, of a 200 employee company, and Jason hangs up. Jason, what are you doing? I had a whole voicemail ready to go. No, the whole point of this was to talk. And it's just to tell you, I only pick on him because that ended up being his second biggest deal. He actually talked to the CEO directly about exactly what we can do, that we were the only vendor to be able to do that.
Oh,
And
that's funny. So he got stage fright when he answered the phone.
yeah. So
I
when you
hope you
fast
remind
forward,
him of that once in a while.
what's that?
I hope you remind him of that once in a while.
If I see him again, yeah, but sometimes it's them that remind me. So, you know, fast forward to when attempting to buy the Dale Carnegie franchise, I didn't like the way the books were. I had a good partner that agreed, and so we did a leverage buyout, which allowed us to control the company for the next year or so. And when we did that, we inherited the team again. One of them was Teresa, and the first or second week that we were there, it's Friday, and she comes in and she's crying already because she thinks I'm going to fire her. Because what does she do here? She doesn't even know. I said, okay, I'm going to start you off small. We're just going to do 20 calls. Okay. Now, why would I do that? Well, if you met Teresa, first of all, mother of 4, she communicates to 4 different kids. Got to keep that in mind. And she's vivacious. So she's like, every time you look at her, you smile because she just has that beam going ear to ear. And the first month or 2 around her desk, she had mapped out all the different things she would have to say for the courses that are involved in Dale Carnegie. I said, okay, that's going to take a while, Teresa. Tell you what, I'm going to send you to each of the course. You will? Yeah. What was she worried about? It's $2,000 a course. She could never afford that on her own. This is something companies have stopped doing a long time ago, and it's invest in their number one asset, not expense. I said asset, which is people. And if you invest in them, they give you a better return than AI will ever do. I guarantee you that. Especially when there's no I in AI. So Teresa now has gone to 4 or 5 of the courses, and she's on the phone, and she comes in on a Friday. She looks like she's about to cry again. I didn't do the 20 calls a day this week. I said, really? But I tracked you. What, did I do 20? No, you didn't do 20. You did 6, 7, 12. That was a busy day of conversations a day. Somebody who's never sold before. She was just calling all the people we haven't talked to in the last 3 years. That's all she was doing. By the I think it's fifth month around there. Perfect timing. We were hitting a lull. And there I was, grabbing her foot and bringing it down from cloud 9. So, Teresa, I assume you have good news to tell? Yes. I closed the deal. Oh, okay. So you got one individual to come and do a course and one? No. Oh, more? Yeah. Yes. I closed a farm, their whole team. Get out of here. That's like about $25,000. We're going to party now. So I
Wow,
call up
good
the
for her.
lady, buyer at the pharma, and I says, so what happened? She says, I don't like you at all. You're her boss, aren't you? I says, yeah. You know how Teresa is. You just can't hang up the phone on her because she's so nice. And she starts talking about your courses. And eventually I go, geez, I should send my team to those courses. So she did 4 times, 4 different
Wow.
courses.
She was sold before asking for the sale.
She this is the key part of what I'm talking about being equal to a teacher. Think about a teacher, 30 students, different backgrounds, religion, colors, whatever. And get them all excited about math. Thank you for your service, because wow.
Yeah, my wife's a teacher. That could be a challenge.
Right. So Teresa, without the hangups that we put on sales professionals today, just was natural herself. So the secret sauce is that. Make sure it's their natural self. And if they educate so well, the customer asks for the order, even to this day.
Wow, what a great story. So, Mike, I see on your website you've got some great resources for small and medium businesses to just educate themselves, kind of split between macro and micro tutorials. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, it's similar to what you saw already on the main homepage. Certainly my career foundation is in sales, but what were my pet peeve in that time? One was strategy. Hey, our strategy for next year for all you on the team, 25 of us, you're going to do 20% next year. And I was goaded into asking the question, does that mean new product, new markets, something? No, it's just accounting. We believe in you. And then we would see a video of a guy carrying somebody else on the football field, blindfolded across the finish line. We believe you can get across the finish line for 20% more next year with exactly what we have now. Okay. Thank you for the answer, sir.
So, no new
That's not
product, no line extension, nothing.
that's not a strategy. It's just it. And today's strategy, I'm a big fan of Roger Martin. Strategic planning is not strategy. So that's a pillar. The second pillar I've also had losses in that time, and I can point to where the losses were. The company or the team that developed the offer didn't deliver. So I've lost 6, 7-figure deals because of that. So if you make it easy for them to sell and easy to buy, simplify it, which is again part of the secret sauce you were asking before, man, it makes a world of difference for people that are selling because they got enough to handle building the relationship without getting into that. And then the third pillar is performance. How do you get performance? So what's the most honest scorekeeping in the world? Golf. Because you lie, your 3 partners on the tee know you're lying.
Yeah, would you shoot this whole par?
Yeah, right.
Been there, done that, Mike.
Well, the performance has to be linked to a system. The reason New Year's Eve goals don't succeed is you don't have a system to get at to achieve your goal. So if you've got a system at work and at life, man, you're really flying. And the ones I've met that are quite successful at IVAC, I'm still working on it. So it's not an easy thing to do, but man, when you do have it, it's pretty good. So what you're seeing on that section is an element to bring that together with the focus on the strength on sales, because that's a big thing that people need today. 30, 50% loss in revenues across the board for many, many industries. So how do you sell? Many of them don't know. Well, if you have a system and you frame your performance accountability, anybody can do it. I don't believe in this A talent, B talent, C talent. Anybody can do it if they have the right system in place.
Mike, you mentioned character and accountability, integrity a few times. Is there anything else when it comes to like your philosophy when it comes to client management? Is it about those key elements, or how else do you add the secret sauce into the formula when it comes to client management?
One is that confidence doesn't mean you're going to succeed. Self-esteem is the secret sauce behind confidence. So you look in the mirror on a Monday morning and you know what you want to do and you feel good about yourself, you got a good start. If you're doubting yourself, if you're falling off of what you're accountable for, then it's usually a self-esteem issue. So I want to find out what that is. My girlfriend left me. I lost my dad, those kinds of things. Today, managers, leaders are taught not to get into that kind of personal stuff with your human asset because they're expenses. We'll just get rid of them and find somebody who doesn't have a problem. No.
Good luck with that.
So I get into that and I get the best that I can out of that person. I don't ask more from Teresa. I I put her in a role that fits her strength, and she did fantastic. The same thing for everybody else.
Yeah, there's a saying for that. Put aces in their places. So whatever they're good at, to find that, because everybody's good at something, right? Just to find that role for them.
Well, it's also a different philosophy in a sense of recognition. It's in a sense of everybody wants to contribute. And Dan Pink, who wrote the book, The Drive, I'd say, almost a dozen years ago, he had it right on the money. And he also dismissed the whole notion that salespeople are there just for the commissions. They're not. I'm there for the people. I'm there for the hunt, the challenge, and the money will take care of itself as a result of that. So I can tell you that I've done anything less than 50K, typically in 30 days. Anything that's, 6 figures, usually in 6 months. All of these are against the norms of today right now, which are way longer time spans. So how did I do that? Well, I think you forgot that sales pivots on relationship building. If you go back to that, you'll do the same kind of numbers.
Mike, what would you say a typical day looks like for you?
Well, it's changed over the last little while, but if I'm on a project, I'm preparing for a call with the members of the team of that particular project for the client to be able to guide them to what they need to do to fix their particular situation. If I'm not doing that, I'm applying the same principles to me. What's the first thing I got to check out? Leads. Where are they? When was the last time I followed up with them? Did I send an email? So typical marketing and sales stuff. On the marketing side, okay, who do I need to send stuff on? What's my best way? For example, thought leadership in the content that you remarked on. And those are set up in cornerstones of what I just described in terms of the pillars. And in there, I get into a lot of the sub details, a bit of what's the secret sauce that you just mentioned. Because I heard a comment one time from somebody who worked at CAE. I asked him, why do you put all your stuff on the homepage? The competitors are going to see that. Let me see. Oh yeah, that's the stuff we did last year. Let them keep busy with what we did last year. It's not what we're doing this year. All those topics evolve over time. So I'm always looking to see what's new that we can do to engage people, change systems, and, you know, please develop the right kind of strategy that is determining a new future for you past your comfort zone. Right now, a lot of the strategies is just stay where I am. Just do better with this. No, how do you get better? It's not the way.
So you spoke about things evolving. What evolution or major shifts are you seeing in the industry right now?
Well, certainly the elephant in the room is AI. There's a lot of proponent for it, and there's a lot of people that are against it for good reason. I would say it's in the hands of leadership that I'm not inspired by. So I'm definitely looking and searching for people that are much more considerate of the impacts of what AI can do and not do. And there are some out there. So, for example, MIT came out with a report with a big headline that 95% of AI fails, which is correct in the report. But if you read further, there's 5% that are actually doing some good work. And it's ground up. It's different than what we know as far as chat and Gemini and stuff like that. But they're doing a lot of good work and conscious work is what I would say. And I would put forth there that the ones that are human-centric are going to be the ones that will succeed, not this nonsense that we'll fire 15,000 people and replace them all by AI. Good luck with that. That's
What are
not
your
going to work.
thoughts on instead of replacing people, it could help make people more effective? Do you think there's some merit there?
Yeah, that's what I mean by human-centric. So some of the recent stats that are coming out, I agree with. But people focus on the first part of the sentence. 92 million people will be out of work because of AI. Well, okay, stop being a lame-o headline grabbing, writer. And
Clickbait.
life is generally a balance of things. It will also create 172 million new jobs related to AI. So I said AI doesn't have I in it right now. That's the human part. So think of any particular C-level functions you want. So one would be COO, which I would submit is the worries about what glues the company together. As far as from here's marketing and sales, and we shipped it, which is the end result of any company anyway. Input, output, process in between. That's what operations takes care of. So how can AI be useful? Well, I just started a heavy-duty equipment, heavy truck repair shop. I have 4 bays. I found the right 4 mechanics to put this together. I've got the garage. I'm really smart in the heavy truck. What are they missing? 63% businesses, small medium businesses miss 63% of their calls, particularly trades. The emergency calls, the after work calls, the calls just for you to call me back, please. I'm a potential customer. Do you have enough? Then just turn off your phone. Okay. So voice AI has a place with that, especially the latest iterations of that. But to your point, an AI employee that is your COO or operations manager. Today, it's just the operations manager. And what's their job? Well, the voice AI passes it on to the operations manager. They schedule the truck, what bay, which mechanic, what's the work to be done. print it out or at least put it on the iPad, depending on how modernized you are, and off you're running with that. When you get big enough and you have 16 days or locations, guess what? That AI employee now is the immediate assistant with all the knowledge of the last 5 years of growing your business for the new director of operations or COO. They immediately have an AI to help them figure out how to onboard, who to talk to, and whatnot. So that's a bit of a glimpse in the future I see for AI. It's to help us be better.
So when you look a little bit in the mirror, is there some things that AI or automation can solve for a business like yours?
Well, for sure, when I removed all my bookmarks for the last 10 years
That's a brave move.
to articles that I thought were interesting as far back as 2000, I converted it to what they call a markdown file. And then I used a local AI, Olama, to analyze it, categorize it, and come up with exactly the categories I told you. So you up on the website, there's 200. I have like 10,000 ready to go. And one of which was, okay, what's the difference between sales in the 20th century, so prior to 2000, and what's the difference in terms of the 21st century? Some of which I've said in this conversation, which is it's non-linear. The buyer is equally informed than you, the buyer. So you have to come at it differently, have to be innovative, have to demonstrate why you're better than others without bashing the competition, stuff
Fair
like
point.
that.
So in your particular industry, are there any bottlenecks that are challenging or prohibiting growth, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've evolved in my practice that I had the wisdom of starting it during the pandemic. So I've got to
Right.
work with CNC shops, home care businesses, engineering firms in that time frame, and most recently, somebody that's in and around the building automation. And so the bottleneck I ran into was I'm a consultant, I'm guiding, I'm providing information, I'm demonstrating where this has been successful in the past, and they don't act on it. So
Mm,
I see a certain malaise out there right now in terms of everybody's really good at gathering information, but acting on it, not worrying about making mistakes. There's a certain level of normalcy of not screwing up, which is anti-human because we make mistakes. So what we try to do as a manager is create an environment where you limit those mistakes, but you're able to learn individually and as a group. Another element of the secret sauce you were asking. So in one case last year, in the last couple of years, I've been honored to have clients that help me bridge that feast and famine that consultants often feel. But what they were doing was hurting my eyes. They were cut and pasting out of Outlook and putting it into Pipedrive. If it became a project, they cut and paste and put in Wrike. And if it became a part of a project that was billable, they put it into QuickBooks. So I asked a simple question: where's your single source of truth? Because I had exported the data out of Pipedrive, Wrike, and QuickBooks. Oh, my single source of truth is Dropbox. Okay, I said, no, buddy, you just went from $250,000 to 10 million in 4 years. Way to go. But you didn't do it with any systems. You're going to fall over the cliff in the next year if you're not careful. So you need to get them to integrate to one another in some fact. By the way, you feel that it's worthwhile to pay somebody to tap in $10 million revenues and related expenses on an Excel sheet. Yes. So that you know that you've got everything covered in that spreadsheet. Yes. Okay, well, I analyzed the data out of all your systems, and you have $100,000 worth of invoice that you didn't invoice last year,
wow.
which turns out to be a standard revenue and profit leak for small, medium businesses. If they can plug that they would, they would be back off the cash flow issue. So what's happened since last year when I stopped the contract, they've gone back down to 7 million.
Just like
What's
you
going to
said.
happen further is they got to 10 million by not paying people really a lot. And they're going to figure out that they had a big piece of the pie in building this to 10 million. And if they don't get their fair pay, they're going to leave. And that's when the issues start to arise. You got to take care of your people.
You certainly do, and they'll just pay you back in spades. It seems like a no-brainer, but it can't be reinforced often enough. So, in terms of let's say your operations or what you do day to day, if you had a magic wand and say, I'd like AI to solve this one problem for me, or this is kind of taking up too much of my time, or this is annoying that I have to do, what would be an example of that?
Well, one, I had that thought back in for Q1 of this year. So I should have rabbit ears for that thought because it took me down AI. There's a lot of them out there. It's really hard to cut through and find out which ones you like. Second, I was looking, given my experience with CRM and ERP and selling and implementing them, with they're now called traditional software applications. And who would have thought in 20 years they become traditional? But I didn't see what I was looking for in them. There's still too much clunkiness in some of the aspects of it, particularly with integration. So here's the statistics. The average person today in the office works with 10 apps a day without talking about going back and forth. So I'm looking for something that reduces that tech stack completely. And the term I came across was something called revenue operating systems. And that led me to the CEO of Set to Close in your neck of the woods in Vancouver, Jordan. And I said, man, I love what you put together. It's really well thought out details, but it's on HubSpot. And they follow the same model as Salesforce. As soon as you want to grow and add people, you're just looking at expenses. Every time you want a feature, you got to pay something. I'm looking for something that's small, medium business. So for the last 90 days, I've had the pleasure and honor of working with the referral that Jordan gave me to Jacob. And if I talk about my sales success for just a moment, at the heart of the sales success is always a technical person that was behind me, supporting me, making sure I can do the sale like I wanted to. An architect in the field of AI and software. Well, Jacob is an architect, and I've seen enough of them to tell you that was something worthwhile to pay attention. So I've been playing around with his voice AI, his lead gen AI, his revenue operating system that enables the workflow with AI, and it really speeds things up. So to give you a stark difference, before I met him, the customers that I guided as a consultant, and now I'm not going to do that ever again. I'm going to go in there and fix it as far as the next contracts come up in 2026. And I had to call 300 prospects to find the 2 contracts I'm working on now. In 90 days, Jacob's had me busy with 10, if not 20 meetings a week.
Now, there's a great example of how AI does not replace people, but can make them more efficient and effective. That's a wonderful case study. And that's a bit of what we do here is you had mentioned going down the rabbit hole of looking at AI tools. It really can be a bit of a black hole, but we take the challenges that companies have and then do the work of pairing them with solutions that are AI based, not to replace their people, but to make their people more effective. And again, like we were talking about at the beginning, it's ultimately about helping companies grow. So if they grow, they can they can retain and hire more people, and they can make their people more effective, pay more tax dollars into supporting their communities and funding social programs. So if there are tools that help companies grow and be more efficient, it's a win for everybody. The company, societies, employees, the whole 9 yards. So that's good on you for being proactive on that.
Well, we talked about another industry that we had crossroads in terms of the automotive business early on. And when we talk about process, they've really siloed and ensured that each of their divisions are well maintained and profitable in terms of, the repair service, the used car, and the new car. And they really haven't steered away from that for a while now. Tesla might have scared them a little bit, but the project I was involved was, hey, look what happens when you combine the three in terms of what's the least costly customer in your entire sales career? Referral. And according to HubSpot's marketing and sales statistics and other places like that, 84% of sales reps don't ask for referrals. I'm just going, my God, what the hell is going on out there? So if you can get referrals, that cuts the cost by half. And you
Isn't
have
that
a
something?
built-in referral system from each of the departments, and you guys don't talk to each other. So all we did was create a software. Well, I didn't, but I helped to mentor it, and he ended up selling it to Mercedes, where, as I recall, where they were integrated. I don't know if it was all of Mercedes or one particular
Sure.
dealership, but because I met him years later, but he said it worked great for them.
Good. That's an excellent example. So, when you work with a client or a partner, which metrics are you most focused on improving? Are some metrics just gospel regardless of the industry, or do you have more custom approach in terms of KPIs?
You got to remember that KPIs are the laggard indicators. They happen after the fact.
Mhm.
So I'm attempting to look at the indicators before you get to that. So how many leads did you put together? And out of those, how many did you actually convert with an expressed interest? So each industry is different in how they categorize everything from a suspect all the way to a prospect. So it's not a prospect for me until it's an expressed interest in what I do or what the customer does. Otherwise, it stays a lead and stays in that bucket to be nurtured, because what a lot of these lead gen companies are forgetting is only 5% are ready now. The other 95% don't even know who you are yet. So you got to nurture them. You got to build them up to the point. Out of those 45, 50% will buy, just you don't know when. So if you just plaster them just to get at the 5%, you just pissed off your ideal customer profile. Number one. Number two, you make your numbers, but did your conversion ratios match the numbers? Oftentimes that's not the case. So think of it as you powered across the finish line with your Super 8 engine, but only two of your pistons actually work. So what happened to the other six or eight? How can you get them to work again? So that's a conversion ratio question. When they're a prospect that's interested, you're only probably dealing with one or two at the time. The average decision making apparently involves 6 to 8, which I'm not surprised about, because it's we're in the age of CYA decision making. Cover your ass. Talk to everybody in the office to say, "Hey, is this good?" Instead of what you were paid to do as a leader and a decision maker. So you need to talk to all those people to make sure they all say yes to the decision making. That's a lot of work. You can already imagine how many calls and how many meetings that could potentially be right away. So prospecting is the hardest thing I explain to non-salespeople. They just don't get what kind of work is involved at the front end. So once you convert their expressed interest, what are you trying to decide? Well, there's a basic system, BANT. What's their budget? Who's the authority? What's their need? When do they want to do it? We're in an age that they don't know the answer to those 4 questions because, well, if we have the budget, don't know if I have the budget. How can you not know what your budget is? It's already halfway through the year. And you want this to be done because it's a pain in the ass? Okay, well, come on.
Right.
Other sales process and methodologies and techniques get into more details of that, but I'm just talking about it for basic level, podcast type thing. So your conversion then is to the opportunity. The number one problem with CRM wasn't the CRM. It's just that you put a ton of people in your opportunity pipeline that should have never been there in the first place. So I look at the qualifying questions and answers I'm looking for at each stage of the conversion to the right to the end of the opportunity. Some
What would
companies
you
stop there. They don't check why did we win and why did we lose. Man, you can get a ton of information when you ask those questions from a debrief. It's kind of like, why wouldn't you interview the person when they say they want to leave your company? Did you mess up somewhere? Did they get a better offer? Those things are important to know.
Yeah, good point. You learn so much from an exit interview about your blind spots. And
Yeah,
I could see the exact same parallel for a person on the sales team who just thinks, like you said, it's a numbers game. Maybe I didn't get this one, but has no realization about why they didn't get this one.
correct. There's a great underrated book called The Game of Work by Chuck Coonrad. And his approach to business using the parallels in sports are right on, spot on, you know? So you're new to the company, you walk in, you don't know what's going on. But you go in the auditorium and your friends say, "Hey, I'm going to show you how rugby is played because, it's not one of the main sports. So I'm going to go see rugby." What do I know right off the bat? The score. The scoreboard's right there. I can tell exactly what's going on. So now we're in your seat and your friend's saying, if it's hockey or basketball, that if you put the elbow there, that's 2 minutes, it's a foul, you got to pay the price. That's the equivalent of saying, swearing to the customer. But when you go back check on the back, that's really bad. That's a major. You could potentially get ejected. Well, that's kind of like the equivalent of embezzlement in business. So if you do something bad like that, so in one scenario, I'm asking the team of 26. So does anybody here know what will get them fired? Please raise your hand. Nobody. They don't know what would get them fired. The boss was
Wow.
livid, and I said, "Hey, get back there. This is team building. You're only supposed to watch." But they didn't know. And I see that more often than I do that they do know. Okay. So to continue the logic of the game, oh, in hockey, well, there's 5 players. And you heard me earlier say the right wing has to pass to the left wing. But what they're doing is a box and one to counter what the defense is doing. What's the goal? Well, to score the puck and net. Oh, okay. Does anybody in business know what that is, that strategy, that tactic? No, they don't. So coming back to your question about secret sauce, that's what I show them. I show them the playing field. I use the analogy of the boards or the lines on the side you can't cross. Those are things that are got nothing to do with you. You stick on the playing field, period. That's how I get the accountability because it's something that they get. So why strategy? Because it inspires, it motivates. They know the why of what the company's doing. Why operations? Well, here's the field of play. What's the performance? Well, I'm a defenseman. What's your role? I'm not very good, but I got to just stop them from crossing the blue line. Perfect. I'm a defenseman. I'm really good. Okay, well, then I'm going to have you bring it out so that the forwards can be ready to penetrate their stuff. So that could be a product manager making sure that the 3 salespeople can cross the line with the puck. So I use those analogies because they get it. They've been in the arena themselves. They never really aligned it. So I think Chuck Coonrad did a great job of bringing that to my attention.
What do most people not understand about your business?
Well, prospecting's for one. They don't understand their own company to begin with. So I've always been trained to know what my numbers are at any given time. How many calls I made, how many meetings, who did I talk to, what did they say, all of that stuff. So I just ask simple questions. What's the revenue for this month? Don't know. Have to check. How can you not know that? Okay, let's just do a softer one. What was it for the year? I think it was 6 and it turns out to be 4.
So they
well, you
didn't even know
just
what
know
their
the gross
targets were.
profit. Don't know the gross profit. Don't know the net profit. Okay, well, how are you expecting to lead anybody if you don't know these numbers? So how many customers did you close this month? Well, I have to check the sales team. You're the owner, for crying out loud. So I'm talking to him in Edmonton. I says, okay, you've been in business for 18 years. Where's your customer list? I don't have one. Okay, well, how do you expect me to help increase your sales if you don't have a customer list? The first thing to do is reactivation. Call people up, find out who are your reference and testimonials, get a referral. That's like basic sales stuff. So luckily they had a good person to take things on, and I got a list of 300, and we got them a 26% growth in 2022 during the pandemic. But I took a lot of heavy lifting.
Mike, can you just quickly recap?
Well, they'll start seeing it on my website, the Voice AI for one, 24/7, answers all the calls. I'm sure you've been on corporate websites where they have like 3 pages long of FAQs. Give it to Voice AI. Nobody's going to read those things. Put guardrails on them. Have an SOP, meaning a process, in order to properly use it. If you don't know what an SOP is, standard operating procedure. If you don't know what that is, you need to know. So give me a shout. I can give you a quick heads up. The AI by themselves don't work. So what Jacob did at 80/20 Media is essentially map a tactic and strategy that works for SaaS that can be applied to other businesses. And it's the approach written in a book by Jacko, I forget his last name, but his company was Winning by Design.
Is
And
that Jocko Willink?
what's that?
Is that Jocko Willink?
No, it's a Dutch name. But
Okay.
if you look up Winning by Design, you'll see the rest of the name, something Van something. And he's proven that over the last decade, that particular methodology working. And he's essentially mapping the revenue factory of the good old days to the equivalent of 21st century. What does that mean? With different models that address the non-linear facet of 21st century selling. And in the book, the first thing he says, it's not a one size fits all. So if you're a business that depends on, RFPs or putting tenders out there, like in construction, we need to tweak it to make sure it works for you. If you're a business that does account-based marketing, for example, at large enterprise, well, we need to tweak it. If you're a blue collar, selling to consumer type business, well, we need to tweak it because you have a different model. And he did create eight to nine different models to look at. He didn't leave you hanging. And Jacob spent an awful lot of time for his IP to do that, which he put on the backbone of a product called GHL, which I didn't know about, but it's essentially a marketing software, I would describe it to some degree. And it's got great integration that all these 10 apps I mentioned to you is all in one interface, period. And from
Much
there,
more
when you
efficient.
do something, when you enter a piece of information, the workflow in the back, boom, takes care of it. I don't have to think about it. You are my manager. You wanted to know what went on in the meeting. Here's the meeting notes. Click, boom, it's in your report. I'm not doing any more typing as far as sales.
Jocko van der Coolidge
There you
is
go.
the name we're looking for. I'll have to check out that book.
I found it very good and one of the few that I can basically apply properly.
So before we wrap up, Mike, anything you want to brag about or share about your company, or even a really insightful learning that you've experienced over the last little while?
Well, one of the issues with AI is people think it's a girlfriend. People ask it mental health issues. Those are a lot of the negative stuff. It's going to take my job. And you got to stop doing that. You got to get under the surface and you got to find out what they can actually do. So even in my own experience with ChatGPT, Gemini, and even Perplexity and Copilot, if I asked it too many questions, I got Asian characters back. And I said, I speak English. And the response was, "I'm sorry. I got a 'I'm sorry' from AI." What the hell? What was that all about? And then I'm asking it for a complex type of Excel sheet, and I can't for the life of me open the file. I did that in Python code. You specifically said you're producing an Excel sheet with a pivot table. Hello? So there are obviously limits to AI that everybody needs to recognize. But in the case of Jacob, who's an architect and arguably not somebody with humor, I gave him a basic consultative sales process to follow with the relevant guardrails that if he couldn't answer, that it send it to me. So what did Jacob do? He put a female avatar with my voice that I had to test. It's very annoying to talk to yourself when you're better looking as a female, as far as the voice AI. Anybody with any sense of human conversation could tell it's not quite there. But from a business perspective, for what you need for help in your own stuff, it is there. The agents there, you can create specific personalities in your own chat you want. It's not the same thing. And that was the other thing I had to learn. There's different AIs here. You learn that and you're not feeling so bad as a human because it's going to take a while for them to be much more specific. So when it comes to content development, for example, this AI just looks at the swipe file. This one is trained how I wanted to create it so that I look authentic, not it look authentic. So what's the elements that make it to be like? And then this one does the publishing. When you get them all three working, which I started to do, there's my mark, all ready to go, all interlinked on multiple platforms, video. Wow, you just saved me like 4 months worth of work. I can focus
Isn't
on what
that
makes.
precious?
Well, I think so because, like I said, we're living older. We'd rather work on what's the fun stuff at this point. So yeah, bring it on. That's what the Maritimer said on YouTube. Hey, hey, if you're over 40, get on YouTube. Don't let the kids have all the fun. He's right.
That's right. The kids have enough fun. We have to have some fun too. So, Mike, where can people find out more about your company?
It's at the letter B, the word effective together.ca is the website. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously. And from there, they can get my calendar or phone number and we can talk.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining the AI Surge podcast, where we explore how AI is shaping industries and accelerating innovation. I'm your host, Surj Uppal, and today I'd like to thank Mike Reardon, owner of bEffective Consulting, for joining us. Mike, that was a pleasure. Really enjoyed your insights. They're so well-rounded in terms of strategy and sales and coaching and focusing on the big picture while implementing AI tools, even for the benefit of your own business. So I hope you all enjoyed it. And Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you at the next podcast.